Nicole looks at me like, are you kidding, really? Okay. All right, let's see, what do we want to do? I guess just do the outside stuff first.
You remember the whole...
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure you do, but...
I think I got it. Okay. All right, so we have the structures of the eye. We'll start with the external structures that we can see. The eye is composed of 3 layers of tissue. The outermost layer is the sclera, which is connective tissue, the white of the eye. Okay. That continues along the front of the eye as the cornea, the windshield that we see here. Okay. Situated on top of the sclera, on the superior lateral portion of the eye, is the lacrimal gland. The lacrimal gland is what produces the tears, which flow over the cornea to clean it. We can see the external muscles that control the movement of the eye. We have a superior rectus above, an inferior rectus below, a medial rectus here, and a lateral rectus here. Besides the 4 rectus muscles, we have the tendon of the superior oblique muscle here, and we have the inferior oblique muscle here. All right. If we open up the eye, we can see a thin layer here represented by this brown line, which is the second coat of the eye just inside the sclera, called the choroid coat, and this is composed of blood vessels. And then the innermost layer is the retina, which is composed of nerve. All right. Now, if we start from the cornea and pretend that we're a beam of light traveling into the eye, the light will pass through the cornea and it will enter into this space where my finger is right now. That space is called the anterior chamber. The anterior chamber is bordered by the cornea in front, and the colored part of our eye back here, which is the iris. Now, in the middle of the iris, we have a hole, which is the pupil. Right? And if we go through the pupil, we'll encounter the lens. The lens will sit directly behind the pupil like this. There will be a space between the back of the iris and the front of the lens, which is called the posterior chamber. Both the anterior and the posterior chamber contain a clear fluid called aqueous humor. Right? Now, the lens is kept in place right behind the pupil by suspensory ligaments, which aren't shown on the model, but they would be attached all the way around the rim of the lens. The other end of the suspensory ligaments will be attached to a circular band of muscle that we can see here, and the other part of it is over here. So it's actually going all the way around the front of the eye. That circular band of muscle is what is known as the ciliary body. Now, if we are a beam of light now and we pass through the posterior chamber, then through the lens, we'll end up in this big space back here known as the posterior cavity. Right? The posterior cavity is lined primarily by the retina. But on the front of the posterior cavity, there is a non-retinal part of the covering, which is known as the ora serrata. The ora serrata covers the ciliary body. Right? Now, if we're that beam of light and we're traveling right through the middle of the eye, we'll eventually strike the retina right back here in a location on the retina known as the macula. Okay? The very center of the macula is the fovea centralis. If we move about 12 degrees medially from the macula, we will find the point where all of the nerves from the retina are congregating to leave the eye as the optic nerve. That point of exit is known as the optic disc. Okay? And then from that point on, all of those nerves would essentially form what we recognize as the optic disc.
So the whole white thing is...
Yeah, this white thing right
here.
Mm-hmm. I believe that's everything. I'm not sure that there's anything
What about
more.
the posterior cavity?
Oh, well, yeah. Basically, this whole space is known as the posterior cavity. I guess I failed to mention
Filled
that.
with vitreous.
Yes, filled with the vitreous humor, right, which is cloudier than the aqueous humor. Anything else?
The movement of the eye muscles.
Yeah, I guess we would describe what happens here. The rectus muscles, of course, are going to pull the eye in a straight line. That's why they're called rectus, because rectus means straight. So the superior rectus will pull the gaze of the eye upwards. The inferior rectus will pull the gaze downwards. The medial rectus will pull the gaze toward the midline of the body. The lateral rectus will pull the gaze away from the midline of the body. The superior oblique muscle will pull the gaze down and out, so laterally and inferiorly. The inferior oblique will pull the gaze up and in, so it will pull it medially and superiorly. Okay? And that'll do it.